Welcome to a special edition of Late Night with BS3. We are adjusting the time. We were doing 9 p.m. Central Time, but we are adjusting it to 8 p.m. Hopefully, that'll be able to get some more viewers and some more engagement, especially for my East Coast people. But tonight we have a special show. We'll be doing a one-on-one interview with Elijah Stroughter. He is the owner of In Defense of Life, which is an organization that helps with self-defense and helps with ways to really help your individual self and to help defend against things that may happen to you or may occur. So he will be coming on the show tonight. The website for In Defense of Life, very simple, indefenseoflife.com. We're live on multiple platforms right now that you'll be able to check out. We're live on BS3 TV on Roku. We're also live on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, click that notification bell. Also, make sure to follow us on social media at BS3 Network, all avenues of social media. So we were going to bring him aboard. And also, if you have questions as we're going throughout the interview, you can definitely put those in the chat room as well. So let's bring on our guest. Elijah, my friend, how you doing?
I am doing well, man. I know I probably look like a bad horror movie right now. I'm in the car driving.
Busy man though.
Yeah, so I apologize. Like I said earlier, I was leaving a security detail, and my calendar invite did not pop up for the show. So I'm very, very sorry for the image that you're seeing, but I'll get somewhere very much more lit here in just a moment.
Okay, no problem. So, introduce yourself. Tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit about Elijah.
Sure. So again, my name is Elijah Stroughter. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I live in Atlanta now. I've been here about 10 years. This is where I met Ben in a church there that we were both a member of. I wear a lot of hats, and one of those hats is an audio engineer. So I've been a live sound engineer for a little over 20 years during the pandemic. So being a live sound engineer and doing a lot of concerts, public events, lots of social engagement, you can imagine that when the pandemic hit, I had to, find other ways of, of supporting the family. I've always, been intrigued in guns. I've always had guns for, many years since I was 9. I was born in Texas, so, it's not necessarily, a strange thing. So I started taking up a second passion, which was, instructing. And I was like, okay, what kind of instruction? Well, it was firearms and self-defense. So I've been teaching professionally or instructing professionally now for a little over 3 years. I have some instructors. I have 2 instructors there in Texas that works for In Defense of Life. It's Tracy and Ivy. And I have 2 here in Atlanta. I have 1 in North Carolina, working on 2 in Miami and 1 in St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands. And what In Defense of Life is just that. It is a company that provides practical self-defense approaches for civilians. And again, in a practical manner without the aggressive ideologies you may see nowadays. Everybody running around with their big guns and all of that, which is nothing wrong with it, but there's got to be a more practical approach to defending your life, and right. We strive to provide that.
Yeah, and kind of the reason why I'm inviting him on the show is I actually took a new shooters class actually last weekend with Tracy, and she did an amazing job. Me, myself, and my daughter both went there to get trained, because when you think of guns, it has this negative connotation, but it's really not the gun. And I want you to kind of also comment on this. It's the people behind the gun, not the gun itself. Guns itself can't do anything wrong. It's the actual person, and that's what I appreciated about In Defense of Life, because Tracy was just explaining what the proper words to use and how to say it. And that was one thing I really appreciated about Tracy and our experience.
Yeah, terminology is important in any field or any industry, right? It's like if you're an attorney, you can't, go in talking, fast food restaurant talk. Or if you're a police officer, you can't go in talking hip hop or slang. So
Right.
you have to use a terminology that is proper for the industry that you're talking about, especially when you're speaking to people that are considers experts or well versed in that particular field. You use the wrong terminology, then a lot of times they can really turn you off, and some of the services that you need, you may not actually get because you're lost in terminology.
Right.
And it is our goal to take something that's difficult and has been, especially for our culture, kind of taboo and off limits, but take that and make it a lot more accessible. Break down the small idiom, small nuances of of firearms and shooting, and shooting guns. And I have to say this because I've heard people who well-meaning said that, hey, go to Elijah and he'll tell you how to show you how to shoot people. That's not that's not what
No,
we do. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that is not what we do. We
that's
show
bad
you how.
advertising.
No, exactly. Well, yeah, to some people it's great. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm looking for that. But we're not the people for that. We teach people how to defend themselves, and if defending yourself means, run and hide, then by all means, let's do that. But if you have nowhere to run, you have nowhere to hide, and you have to use a firearm for defense, we're going to do it in a safe and a within the confounds of the law.
Yes, yes. Now, I did just interested. Do you have a military background or anything?
I do not. I do not have
Okay.
military or law enforcement background, although I do teach some ex-military and some law enforcement. Um, my background is, you probably know my testimony. It wasn't that
Audio.
side of it wasn't it wasn't that side of the law, right?
Right, right.
So yeah, no, but I take a lot of classes from military, mostly special operators, high functioning operators and military.
Yeah, yeah. Now, how did you come up with in defense of life, which the acronym comes out to be idle, which I thought was interesting. Was that on purpose, or was that something that it just happened to be?
Well, the acronym no. The In Defense of Life, during the time that, and I am, let me back up here. I'm a USCCA certified firearms instructor and training counselor for USCCA. And what training counselor means that I certify other people to become certified instructors. And when I was, looking into, becoming a certified instructor, I searching the internet and social media and all of the titles and and all the companies out there, they had some kind of tactical approach or some kind of tactical title. And again, which is nothing wrong with that. I just thought that market was already saturated and it wasn't necessarily something that um, I wanted to instruct on. I think the average civilian, the average person, is not necessarily interested in tactical approaches for self-defense. They just want to know how to get home safely without, being harmed and and that type of thing. So I'm like, what is the main purpose for me wanting to instruct people and on firearms? And it was, well, so you can defend your life, not so you can show it off, not even for competition, which competition is great also, or not to say I got it and brag about it, but it is for a specific purpose, and that is for defending your life. And it also speaks to, okay, when is it okay to use this firearm? I wanted that to
Right.
be up front. It's like, okay, you're using this firearm, you're learning these tactics, you're running these drills, you're practicing on this. Why? To defend your life. That's what it's for. So I came up with, kind of corny and lame, title there is "In Defense of Life." It's like, it makes sense to me. We'll see. We'll see what the public thinks about it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's straight and to the point. I mean, I think that's the biggest. I think the biggest meaning is, it's not beating around the bush, because, and one thing Tracy was saying is that if there is an intruder, if there was someone trying to get at you or to get at your daughter, you have to do what you have to do, and whatever that takes, and that's what I'm here to train you in doing. So to me, it makes in defense of life, it makes complete sense, and the wording and everything. So I'm and when idle, I was like, is that a play on words? But I think it's a good acronym. It's easy to remember, and I think it was a great word and great wording. And let me give a shout out. This interactive show we got Elevate podcast says good evening. That's Justin Caraway. He hosts a show on BS3 Network. So thank you for coming through. Let me know if you have any questions as we're going through. Now, what are some of the services? Because it's not just gun training. There's also other aspects of in defense of life. So you could share some of the services that you guys offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and now I'm getting this feedback. I don't know if you can hear that. Let's see.
A little
And it's
bit. It may
recording
you may
right
need
now.
headphones possibly, if
Okay.
that may help with the feedback. But CJ Boyd, thank you for tuning in. All right, now I can't hear you if you're talking. So maybe without the headphones, then would be fine. All right. I think it may be a connection issue, possibly. It's saying you got a bad connection. So we got Elijah Schroeder in defense of life. Visit the website indefenseoflife.com. I think we're having a little bit of a technical issue. It says network connection is low. We do have a couple of questions here on tap. But maybe if you did do the headphones, maybe not do the headphones. Maybe that may help. But I was kind of sharing my experience. Took a shooter one training with Tracy that works with In Defense of Life, and with that training, it really kind of showed me the ins and outs of a gun to check and make sure that if there's a round in the gun, and then there's also a follow up class as well that I'm looking forward to taking too. But this was definitely an experience that I won't forget, but also it's a continued thing. It's not just a one time thing that you go through this training, it's continued training. And I think that's one thing that impacted. All right, we still having, I don't know if you're talking or not. I can't hear you. It looks like there's still a bad connection, possibly. We're working through an issue here. We'll try to get this resolved here pretty quickly. And to answer your question, CJ, it's not just a gun class. It is self defense. We will ask if that's hand to hand, but also there's other aspects of it that we'll get into as well. That in defense of life. Okay, I think we're good now, Elijah. All right. For some reason, we cannot hear you at all. All right. I apologize, everyone. We're trying to get this worked out here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in here with us here. I want to put you in the background and then bring you back. We'll see if that helps. 1 second. Maybe back out and come back in to the room. Okay, let's try that. This is a live show, everybody. Whenever there's a live show, technical difficulties can happen, but we can continue to roll with it. What you can see behind me is a couple of images of some of the photos on the website, and it's showing handguns as well as larger guns as well, and also helping. When he comes back, we'll get into some of the other things that they help with. All right, let's see if we got them. Can't hear you. Do you have headphones in? No. Okay. I don't know what happened. Uh, hmm. Yeah, I don't know what just happened. All right, there's another option. I can give you a phone number, maybe. In connect from the car. Are you connected to your Bluetooth? If you are connected to the Bluetooth, maybe disconnect from that possibly. Your phone on mute. All right. Let's do this. Let me give him this phone number. Let's try it that way. I know he is kind of on the go. All right, we'll get this figured out. Edwin, thank you for tuning in, man. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. We will get Elijah back here in just a minute. Hold tight, everybody. And then once we do that, we'll make sure that everybody can hear him, or you guys can hear him on the other end. All right, so like I said, you can see kind of behind me some of the photos. All right, let's see if we got them. There we go.
Is that any better?
That is perfect. We are cooking now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I mean, I plugged the phone up to make sure it was charged, but you had said that the phone is not the best source anyway, so my apologies.
That's all right. That's all right. As long as we got it back, we're good to go. So We were talking about what services does In Defense of Life offer?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question. So we're not just a firearms service, which obviously that's kind of the primary. But if you think about it, in defense of life, and when you're defending your life, some of our threats are not other people. It's not always another person. Sometimes it's what's in the kitchen. Some of the threats to our life is in our refrigerator. Some of it's in our emotions or our mental state, and some of it's in the lack of physical activity. So when we think about defending our lives, we have to think about all of those different threats. All right. So
Right.
our diet, nutrition, or the lack thereof, um, physical exercise or just movement, physical health or mental health, even. So we provide yoga, mindful meditation. You may think mindful meditation that's just kind of weird, but really it's not. We can get a lot of things solved if we just take a deep breath every now and then. And when I say mindful meditation, I don't necessarily mean sitting down in the living room with candles lit, your legs crossed, singing, doing a chant, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But
Yeah.
that's not all meditation is. Sometimes again it's just taking some deep breaths. Wake up in the morning and you're running late and you run out the door, spill coffee all over yourself, trip and fall down the stairs, which is not supposed to be funny, but it is.
Yeah.
And get to
It's
the
funny
car
after
and
the fact.
yeah, I know, right? You get to your car and realize you don't have any gas. You're like, oh man, you've been late 2 times already. Jump in the car and start driving down the freeway. Some guy comes along and cuts you off, and he shoots you the finger. You shoot the finger back. He shows you his gun. You show him your gun, and now here we are. Right, when we could have taken just a moment before walking out the door, especially when you're armed. But even if you're not armed, take a moment, take a deep breath. You're late already. So a 30-second, 60-second breath or breathing exercise isn't going to make you any more late. Besides, you get that oxygen flowing and getting to your brain. You're going to come up with a really good lie by the time you get to work as to why you were late, right? Because you're probably out of
Exactly.
excuses. The dog only eats, so much homework.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
as far as the gas is concerned, you need a gas, but you know how far you can go on an empty tank. So now you're driving down the freeway and dude cuts you off and shoots you the finger, and you're like, yo, I get it. There you go,
Yeah.
sir. I mean, because we're all wound too tight, so tight. But
Yes.
in that mindful meditation gives us, a chance to take a step back and think about, what we can do different and how we can react instead of overreact, or how we can respond instead of react. Same thing when it comes down to physical fitness. You know, Park a little further from the door, take the stairs, simple stuff like that. And when we get into mindful meditation and nutrition, we're not trying to tell people how to eat. That's kind of your business, but we do want to bring more education to the things that we are consuming and what they are doing to our body.
Right.
I
Right.
understand that Big Mama and them used to eat everything under the sun. Every piece of anything on the cow, Big
Other
Mama and them
animal.
ate it.
Yeah. Or the
Right.
pig. Yeah.
Right, whatever it was, Big Mama and them ate it. But you have to remember too, that cow was made differently then. And not to
Hmm.
mention, Big Mama and them, they walked everywhere they went.
Everywhere.
So they
Yep.
got their physical exercise. They didn't have Kool-Aid. They didn't have Red Bull. They had sweet tea. That's probably about it, I think. But they had a lot of physical exercise in. So when we think about defending our lives, it's more than from, the bad guy or the bad girl around the corner. Sometimes we're doing it to ourselves. And we want to bring awareness to our clients, our clientele, to say that think about this in a holistic kind of way, in a big picture kind of way. And when I say this, think about defending your life much more than, just from another person. Because let's face it, a gun is not enough to keep you safe. And I know
Right.
that we get that false, understanding. It's like, oh, I got a gun, I'm good now. You're not good, because and especially, when it comes down to females, 9 times out of 10, you're attacked. If it happens, it's going to be very close. You're talking about a foot or two in front of you. Bad guy is not standing 5 yards away, holding his crouch, talking about, yo, I'm coming to get you, baby. Not the way that works.
Right.
He comes up and, and grabs you, takes you by the surprise, bear hug, grabs your wrist, grabs your mouth, or puts you in the chokehold. And if we don't have some other soft skills in order to create distance in space or distance in time in between you and your attacker, that gun isn't going to do you any good. We see time and time again on the social media, these guys got these sub-second draws, like they can draw out of the holster and, present the target in, less than a second. That's pretty impressive, but it's not going to do you any good if that attack is from behind or, again, a foot in front of you. So we got to develop some other skills. So one of the other services that we offer is what we call defensive hands. And that's teaching you to use these in order to create distance in space or distance in time in between you and your attacker, and to get to your force multiplier, whatever that may be, your more lethal force, whether it's a firearm or a sharp edge weapon or a knife. And we're not teaching you to, if you're in that conflict, running is not an option right now. All right. We've seen that movie before. That doesn't work. You run, trip and fall, and it's
Boys in
all
the
bad.
hood.
It's all
Ricky,
bad.
man, Ricky played football. He should have run some out route or
Hey,
something. Ricky,
hey man, so something. He ran straight.
he just ran straight, easy target. Come on.
Yeah, just a target getting further away.
That's a head scratcher in the Black community, even though it wasn't real life. But
if you don't have the training, if you don't have the training, then you rely on what you know, and normally what you know is the panic, and that panic is, stuff like that. That's why training is, important. And I heard you mention earlier that, we have more than one session, and we do. You start as a new shooter, and you have several sessions or a few sessions as a new shooter, and we move you to frequent shooter. And why are we doing, these steps like that? It's so we can build muscle memory in these techniques. It's a lot of skill that goes into shooting a gun. It's not as easy as it looks on TV. So we take a Mr. Miyagi style of instructing, which I'm a Mr. Miyagi style teacher. Wax on, wax off, right? And we start basics. Be brilliant at the basics and master the fundamentals. That's what we're trying to teach you, to do. So if you do have to use this firearm, you're not thinking at this point. You're relying on instruction. You're relying on skill that you've been, what you've been taught, and muscle memory. So you don't have to think about it at this point, right? So that's why we have different sessions, 1, 2, and 3, and sometimes 4 in the new shooter. And of course, we get people to come in like, oh, I know how to shoot a gun. Okay, everybody knows how to shoot. Anybody knows. Any 9-year-old can pick up a gun and shoot it, as we've seen on the news. Every other month or every other week. Somebody kids picks up a gun and accidentally shoots themselves or a neighbor or a relative. Well, anybody can pick up a gun and push, pull, squeeze a trigger, whatever you do to it. Okay, you shot a gun. So telling me that you know how to shoot a gun that's not saying anything at all. The difference between you and a 9-year-old should be your level of skill at using that gun. And we strive in teaching you the skill necessary, as well as keep you out of jail. And that's a whole nother segment, because after firing that gun, there's still a lot. That's not the end of it, right? You got criminal, you beat criminal, then you got civil. Then civil is somebody's baby daddy broke in your house and you shot him, and now the baby mama is suing you because he owed you back child support. As funny as that is,
I think about that.
That's a thing.
Wow.
That is a thing. So now you beat the civil portion of it because you had USCCA as a insurance company, and they provided the the necessary attorneys and that you need. So now you beat the civil part of it. Now you have the emotional part. You have to deal with the fact that you took a life, and everybody talks about, oh, I'll shoot a MF, I'll shoot a Joker, I'll shoot. Have you ever shot anyone?
Yeah.
Before we start break,
that's a different level. That's a different level. Mental capacity, responsibility, and if that person dies, that's on your conscience.
And it should be on your conscience.
Around that.
Yeah, if it should be on your conscience. If it's not on your conscience, we shouldn't be having this conversation. You should be sitting on somebody's couch, talking to them about, what kind of problems you got. Because the average person is going to have problems with having taken a life. All right. And after that is done, you got through criminal, you got through the civil. Now you're in counseling, you're seeing a therapist for the, emotional and mental fallout of it. You still have the court of public opinion. Now you're looking around to see that anybody else, does everybody know that I did what I did? I mean, we talk noise about the Kyle Rittenhouse and what is the guy in Florida? Trayvon Martin, what's his name?
Yeah.
Zimmerman.
Zimmerman.
Zimmerman. We talk. They're not running around living a happy life. I promise you, they are not. Their lives are turned upside down. So now you got criminal, civil, emotional, and now the court of public opinion. And, I'm probably not doing a good job of selling you on guns, but I want to do a good job of selling you on what comes afterwards. If we can avoid using this firearm, I want to teach you to do that just as much. I want to teach you to be very proficient with it.
Right.
I heard an attorney say one time we need to be hard to kill and harder to prosecute.
Yep.
Boom.
And that's what Tracy was saying. And one thing she did say is when that moment, or when you've been in a interaction or you fired your gun, you put it down on the ground, put your foot on top, and put your hands up. And honestly, I've never heard that before, but that needs to be on a shirt, on a billboard. That needs to be told everywhere.
Yeah. So Tracy let a little, tricks of the trade out of the bag there. That kind of comes a lot later on in our training. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because us as African Americans, we're never viewed as a victim. So if you do have to use your firearm in a self-defense situation, you don't want to be the one standing there with a gun when the police pull up. Right. You just don't want to do that.
You don't want to be holding it, for sure.
No, you do not want to be holding a gun. So the whole concept of putting the gun on the ground and putting your foot on it, that's basically creating evidence. So if, God forbid, police do pull up and it's like, oh, he had a gun, so we shot him, and then they go and do the forensics on it, and they realize that no, there's a footprint on this gun instead of a fingerprint, that's a problem for them, right? Those are just kind of tricks of the trade, things that we unfortunately have to do in order to get justice and in this society.
Yeah. I wanted to give a shout out. I don't know if you heard this. Edwin Hogan. You remember Edwin?
Yeah.
He's in the comments. He said, "What's up?" He's also said, "Yep, especially not as a black man." Yes. Now I want to go back a little bit to the mindful meditation. I didn't think that made just kind of given my experience. I didn't think that made a difference, but I've been doing that lately, just taking deep breaths, not being in a yoga pose or anything like that, but just taking deep breaths in those heightened moments. And I didn't realize how much of a difference it makes. It really calms you down.
Yeah.
And it puts you in a different space than what you were. And I think that is something that I watched a documentary that said they're doing that in schools. They're allowing time for the kids to meditate because it makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
And I don't think we realize it.
We're wound so tight in this society, man, that we're not taking breaths. We're reacting. Every time we react, there's a reaction. It's just, and normally that reaction is, some type of, it's a wrong reaction, right? Unless you have gone through that, that training. So taking a minute just to pause, just to beat, before you fire that shot or before you shoot that finger or before you slam on that brake, just take a beat, right? Just take a quick second. Inhale, exhale, do it 3 times if you have to, and you realize, it's not that bad. It's all good. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah,
I have to do that.
Yeah, and you never know what's happening on a day-to-day basis in your life. But you definitely need that. You definitely need that.
And you don't know what's happening in that person's life either.
Right, exactly. It's definitely a two-way street.
Yeah, and I just say a lot of times, I don't want their smoke. They don't want mine either. They just don't know it. So I'm gonna do us both a favor, and just get out of the way. I'm good. You can argue and throw up a big fuss all you want, and you can. And let me say this. So when we talk about in defense of life and using a firearm, I mean just that, and that alleviates the whether or not I'm going to use a firearm because someone is trying in defense of life. Your car is not your life. Even though you may have
Mm-hmm.
the right to do that, let's go back to those other, things that happen after you use that firearm. And
Right.
Texas is a protect your property state, if I'm not mistaken. So trespassing or, carjacking, may justify lethal force. Do you really want to do that? I I don't want to take a life over a car, over jewelry, because again, I don't want to go through the criminal, the civil, the emotional, or the court of public opinion. I just don't want to do that. So if
Right.
you run up in my car, and I don't know if I'm giving bad guys, whatever. I'm like, yo, just burn it up when you're done with it, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like totally
Help
disassemble.
me out.
Don't. Yeah, help me exactly. So the only thing you can't have if he's in here is the little dog. I've got a 4-pound toy poodle. My daughter would lose her mind if I didn't come back home with a dog. So, dude, listen, I need to take the dog. Right? You
Yeah.
can have everything else.
Right.
I need the dog.
Right. Right. Let me get to a question here about
Yes, sir.
Justin. He said, "Do you feel like it will? I think it will put a stop to what is happening to us as Black people now." And I think that's probably the question to gun training.
I I personally feel that with proper training that people will take a beat or take a second thought before they react or before they act on us, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
if you've got, properly trained civilians running around, with guns that have something to lose, I think bad guys and bad girls will think twice before they try and, run up on you and do dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Right now they're only looking for soft targets and victims.
Yeah. That's
All right.
true. Yep.
So yeah, I think it will definitely make a difference. I think police will handle us a little different. Also, that's just my opinion. I have no hard concrete evidence of that, but I think that if they know that they're dealing with well armed civilians, well educated in the law civilians, they'll approach us a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll have to, because there's a different level of fear that they may have, but also accountability that they'll have,
Yeah.
knowing that on the other end they know just as much as you do
Yep.
about what they're carrying.
About the
Um,
law and about
yeah,
survival and about self defense. Yeah.
right, right. I got a question from not a question, but a comment from CJ. He says, in the military, I learned making sure your weapon is clear. It's very important. You don't know how many people I've seen online literally injure themselves
Oh my
or injured
God. Yeah.
somebody else because they didn't check to make sure the round was empty. That was one thing Tracy went over. How to check, put your finger in there, make sure that it when you are emptying that it's empty, because we just mentioned this, accidents happen.
Yeah. And we say over and over again, I don't care who hands you the gun, whether it's your mom, your dad, your boyfriend who's ex-military, your boo who's law enforcement. I don't care if your instructor Elijah. I don't care who hands you that gun. You do a safety check on that gun. You make sure that that gun is clear before you ever handle it. Again, we have this impression that, oh, this is the law enforcement or this is military. So if he or she hands me a gun, it's got to be in safe condition. No, that's
Yeah,
not the way. That's not the way that works. We
yeah.
got the
You don't
impression
know.
that law enforcement are firearms experts, and they're not. That's not their job. That's not. Guns and firearms are no more a law enforcement or a police officer's job than it's my job to cook just because I've got some utensils and some pot and pans at home. I'm not a cook. I'm not a chef.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
I got a car, but you're not going to catch me on the Indianapolis 500.
Right. I'm
That's
not a
not my
mechanic just because I have a car.
exactly right.
Yeah,
And I can change oil, but you're probably not going to find me doing it. Law
right,
enforcement's job isn't necessarily to know guns. It is to enforce the law.
right, right. Exactly, exactly. We got another question from Edwin. He says, "When I took my gun license class, they offered shooters insurance. Is that something I should
Yes.
purchase?" Okay.
Yes. Whether it be USCCA or Law Shield, I'm a USCCA representative, so I'm going to push towards USCCA. I did the research on both of them, and USCCA came out on top. And again, coming from our perspective, I've done, research on USCA in terms of, before I joined and became an instructor, I literally would call these guys and say, give them my full name. My name's Elijah Muhammad, right? These guys are up in Wisconsin somewhere. So I'm like, yo, this is Elijah Muhammad. I got some questions. And just to hear the feedback, right?
Hear
Just
what
see
they
if they're
say.
going to be like,
We can put you on
right.
hold for a minute.
Right. Yeah. Hold on just a minute, and I called, not really irate, but, yo, man, this is stupid. I need talks to somebody. And those guys were always just the same cool people. Now, I don't know what they do when they go home, but
Yeah,
when they deal with me over the phone for the last, 4 years or so, they have been the same type of people. But yes, it is important to, definitely important to have that insurance. And trust me, also, you know, it doesn't cover just firearms. If you hit somebody across the head with a frying pan, then that insurance should cover that also.
oh
And
wow,
and,
I
and
didn't know
let me
that.
say this, Edwin, I really appreciate the fact that you have gone the extra mile to get your firearms license, because I know your background. I know the history and some of the things that have happened in your life. That to me says a lot, and I know there's a lot of strength and courage that has to go into doing that. So I applaud you.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And one thing during the training, and honestly, me and my wife thought, okay, this will be maybe an hour or something. I mean, it was probably, I think, three hours. And I'm not saying that to say it was too long. I'm saying we got so much information, and we enjoyed it, and it was something that I'll never forget, because I've never fired a gun ever
Yeah,
until
yeah,
last weekend. And
awesome.
one thing I did mistaken, because you, like, on TV, you just think, oh, it's not that loud, oh, it's not it won't, you won't have any effect or anything. So I couldn't hear, so I took one of the earbuds out, and my wife
Uh,
fired, and I was like, whoa, that is, yeah,
yeah,
I better not do that again, because I had to put it back in. But I think we all need those experiences, because we don't need to be afraid of these tools, I'll say,
yeah,
guns, because they're being used every day, whether we
yeah,
want to or not. But I think
yeah,
we need to know how to handle them, because you never know when you're going to be in a situation.
yeah.
And that's one thing that I've learned through taking the new shooters class.
And you said it best, it's a tool. You don't have to love the tool, and 97% of our clients are new shooters. They, one, either hate guns, have no interest in guns, or afraid of guns, think guns are stupid, the whole gambit. But they've gotten to the
Yeah,
point where they think, well, it's, they realize it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So
right,
most of them are new shooters, and we kind of gauge, our level of success with them based on when they come back, right? The fact that
right,
they come back, so the experience was enjoyable and they learned something if they come back. Um, and your tool itself, it's like a hammer. You don't have to love a hammer. You just need to know how to use it when it's time
right,
to use it. Or
right.
fork. I don't love forks, but I know how to use it when it's time to
I know how
use
to
it.
use it when
It's
it's time to use
Yeah,
it.
it's a tool. So don't think about it as something that is attached to you, and you got to have it everywhere you go, and which you should. But you have your watch everywhere you go,
Right,
right?
right.
And
Yep,
I don't want to I don't want me to compare a gun to a watch, because obviously they're different. But you drive a car, which is a pretty fast projectile. All
right.
right. And,
True.
so we've gotten comfortable with that. We should get comfortable with knowing how to handle and use a firearm. And again, primarily, staying safe with it. So we go over the safety fundamentals the whole, hour and a half, almost 2 hours for the first and second session. If we see that you can be safe with a firearm, we go on to other skills, in using a firearm. Your trigger resets, how to clear malfunction, how to shoot with one hand, your primary hand, or how to, one hand, your non-primary or your non-dominant hand, how to shoot and move and stay on target. So those are all additional skills that we have to get to and we should learn. Because let's face it, bad guy comes in your house or steps up, and you're not going to be like, "Yo, hold on a second, let me get my
Right, exactly. You're not gonna
what did
stand
Tracy
still.
say? Tracy said, okay, yeah, she said, do this. Oh, wait a minute, here, let me, I'm gonna call Tracy, my instructor, right quick. So that's not the way, it's gonna,
Don't
it's
move.
not,
Hold on a minute.
yeah, just stay right there, dude. Calm down, be patient. So
Right.
you
Stand
may
in the
have to,
corner till I get back. Yeah.
right, yeah, so you may have to pick up a firearm or, retrieve your firearm with one hand, dragging your child to safety or to cover, and still, making shots at the same time. That's not a skill that you learn right away, but we walk you up to that, gradually move it up to you, because you're accountable for every round that comes out of that gun, right? So we got to
Right.
teach you to be smart and to think while you're shooting, or at least
Right.
have that skill there and be able to pull from it when it's necessary.
Right. Right. Edwin says still learning. He also says USCCA. He said will do. And he says, yes, sir. Salute to the comment that you had just about, his background and the step that he's taken. Shout out to Miss Sonia. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you for tuning in tonight. So the website is indefenseoflife.com. Let's kind of talk about some logistics. So if they're
Sure.
in Texas, if they're in Georgia, or if they're in not either one of those states, how do they sign up and what's kind of the process?
Yeah. So if you're outside of the states where we have instructors and we've built relationships with ranges and the necessary people, then we have a process where we need at least 8 people to sign up. Let's say you're in Missouri somewhere, and you like for us to come and do a class. We need a minimum participation in order to make that trip, because obviously the logistics costs.
Right.
Um,
Money. Yep.
but if you're in Texas or one of those states that I mentioned, or Texas or Georgia or or North Carolina, just go to our website, look up a class, and I pretty much start everybody at new shooter. I don't care what your credentials are, even if you're military, and I have a ton of military people that come to me. We start out at new shooter. If I see that you can be safe as a new shooter, then we'll move on to something more challenging. And we teach from a civilian perspective. We don't teach law enforcement tactics. Why? Because we're not law enforcement. We don't have qualified immunity. We don't have police unions backing us up. We don't have all these attorneys and DAs, working on our side. We got ourselves, our pocketbooks, and however pathetic our bank accounts may or may not be, and and our friends and family. That's all we got. So,
Yeah.
teaching civilians military and law enforcement tactics can be a little dangerous. So we need process that from a civilian standpoint, and teach from a civilian standpoint how to engage this threat. But so I start everybody out as a new shooter. So go there, sign up. If you don't see a class there, or you don't see a range session or time slot that fits it within your day, whether it be the week or the weekend, give us an email or a quick text or chat, and we'll see what we can do and get you set up.
Yeah. And it's well worth it. And again, like Elijah said, even if you don't like guns at all, it's still a class that you need to go through,
Yeah.
because it is that vital and important during this time in particular, because there's literally guns everywhere, and they're, like I
Yeah.
said, they're being used on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And just the how to hold the gun,
Yeah.
how to load a, I'm using the right
Magazine.
word, magazine. Thank you. How to load a magazine. All of those things you will learn, and it's at your level. And like I said, my 10-year-old daughter, which I was telling Elijah, I was hesitant and I didn't want her to be there. We need to go when she's out of town, and she was there, and she just to see Tracy, and again another shout out to Tracy, how just she was able to work with her, and her response was, we need to teach the kids at their level what they can understand, what they can retain, so that they're able to continue to learn as well from that age. And she enjoyed it. She did get bored when she wasn't actually handling it, because she's a kid, but when she was in that moment and Tracy was working with her, I just told her I was amazed, because I guess in your mind as a parent, you get nervous, but
Well,
they need to
and
know.
Ben, let me say this about that when it comes down to children. Um, anytime we tell a child not to do something, what are they going to do? They're going to do it, right? Because they're
Right,
curious
right,
about it. Let's
right.
just address the curiosity. And nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, when a child puts this firearm in their hand and they feel the force behind a gun, they know right away that, yo, this is not Minecraft,
Hmm.
right? This is not,
Right, right. Not a
this is
video
not a
game.
video game. You can feel that force. So
Hmm.
now they have a newfound respect, not fear, but a newfound respect for this firearm. So now when they're over, little Susie or Tyrone or Joe, whoever's house, and they want to play with a gun, yours going to know right away. Yeah, nah, that's not something
No,
you play with. I'm not playing this game. I'm leaving, and I'm telling it on the way out.
right. Exactly.
So sometimes
Exactly.
giving them that experience and that exposure helps them to realize how important firearm safety is, and it's not something to play with. And
Right.
also for those that have great fear of guns, come and see us. I mean, we've had everything on the line from one lady just broke down and just started crying on the line with me the first time she ever shot a gun. And I don't mean like little tears. I mean like crocodile Holy Ghost shouting up and down.
Hysterical, probably.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I mean just born. And I was like, oh crap, okay. Well, what are we gonna do? But we made it
Yeah.
through it to another person that literally, and this Tracy was there and she was watching. Her eyes were like this big, boy. This lady just threw the gun up in there. I was like, oh, that,
Whoa.
yeah,
Ooh,
that's how
let's not do
how
that.
afraid she is. But
Right.
she's a client. The first lady that cried, man, she's been, she shoots and moves now like you think that she's been shooting, all her life. So whatever your skill level is, whatever your disdain with firearms, I encourage you to come out and give us an opportunity to show you something. If you've had a bad experience, I think we can help bring that experience back to a more pleasurable level.
Definitely. And one thing I realized, like you said, is the power behind what
Yeah,
you're holding. I didn't think it was that powerful. That first time, I was like, "Whoa!"
yeah,
You almost feel like you're moving or you're rocking back and forth. Just the amount of force.
yeah.
And now when someone and you see the people on TV, they're holding the gun sideways, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, can we break real before we get off here? Can we break that myth? Nobody uses a gun that way, right?
Well, yes, it actually is, and that's part of the training that we'll get to at some point. There's a thing called point shooting, just where you're
Mhm.
not aiming, you're shooting, just just online, basically just pointing at a target and firing a gun, and sometimes it is sideways. That is a different skill set. That's where it came from, seeing the guys. And I don't suggest you do it without that being, something you've been trained to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
Edwin
always
says,
helpful.
"Man, look, yeah." He says, "Man, look, I have two boys, 15 and 5, three girls, 22, 12, and 11. We gotta learn them hands and the arsenal that for experience and knowledge." Yeah,
There you
you
go.
got to, man,
Yes, sir.
because it's happening. It is being used whether we like it or not. So,
Yeah.
and I think we it's almost like we're catching up to it, the normal civilian person.
Yeah.
We're catching
Yeah.
up to where I would say the Caucasian race is there and probably leaps
Oh
and bounds in
man.
some degrees. I don't want to do a generalization,
Oh
but
yeah. No, I mean, they are very well trained. That could be another segment, but they are very well trained and very fluent with a firearm. I want to go back to the last statement that the caller, the viewer said. He has a basically a relatively large family with children in it, and I want to tell him I encourage him to create a home defense plan. All right.
mm,
So if someone comes in your house, what are you going to do? We got a plan. We got a tornado drill plan. We've got a plan for a flood, a plan for a fire, a plan for if you got roaches and rat. You know what you're going to do, right? That
right,
plan.
right,
But
exactly.
somebody comes through the front door and you're like,
What's
we're
what's the
stuck.
plan?
and we should have a home defense plan. You know, my wife and daughter are part of the home defense plan. Somebody comes through the first door, come through the front door, you know, it's like one of the twins activates, and we move into action. She
Yeah.
knows what to do. My daughter knows what to do. My wife knows when to touch me and when not. You know, when not to touch me. What commands, you know, and what they mean. Will it ever happen? No, but if it does,
You'll be
we know
ready.
what to do, right?
So, yeah, get a home defense plan. That is on my list of to do. I'm gonna put that up here on the screen just so you guys can see the verbiage of what I'm talking about. But that is great because we have things for just like in school. Yeah,
Yep.
grew up in California, so we had earthquake drills, we had this
Yeah.
type of drill, we had all these
Yeah.
drills. But that's an important, definitely an important drill to have. Edwin says a total of 5 kids. Yes, sir. Sonia says my 17-year-old has a couple of certificates for shooting handguns as well as rifles at 17.
Awesome. Love it.
Definitely.
Love it.
Definitely. She also says, and my 12-year-old as well as my 9-year-old will be trained to handle firearms also.
Awesome. There you
100%
go.
agree.
I
Good
mean, and
work.
it's, you know, and I'm going to sound probably insensitive here, but if those of you that are shooting guns is actually fun, listen, I have no intention and no desire whatsoever to ever shoot another person. Period. I have no interest in ever doing that. I enjoy shooting paper and watermelons and water jugs. It's just, you know, it's fun. But if I
Right.
have to, I know how to defend my family. So don't think that because you have a gun, it's just to shoot another person. It's not. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's
Yeah.
just fun. You know.
Yeah. And that's one thing that after the going into it, I was a little nervous on what is it going to feel like and all that. And then when we left, I'm like, man, when we signing up for the next one?
Yeah, I
Like, I
know,
was
right?
ready
Yeah, I
to
remember
I was
you
ready to
calling me
buy a
like,
gun
okay,
like
when is
that
the next
day.
one?
Yeah, I called you. I mean, so we're definitely going to sign up for the next one, and I highly suggest it for families for sure, and come out as a family. You know,
Yeah.
I think that made a big difference than just if I went out by myself or just my wife went out by herself. All going out as a family, I think you learn the importance of a gun, you get trained on it, you understand the power behind it, and then you understand how to use it and what your plan is going forward. So,
Yep. And we
yeah,
offer a class called I Got Your Six. And that class is designed to teach families or, you know, buddies and couples how to move with each other. Right. If
mm,
you and the wife and the baby are all out and you're going to a restaurant, you're walking back to the car, a credible threat presents itself. What are we going to do? Right. Wife may
yep,
be packing and you're packing too, but both of you can't be out there, you know, drawing down like Matt Dillon. You have to have a plan. So I Got Your Six kind of teaches us how to move with each other, even if it's just two buddies. You know, most of the guys I run with, you know, they're all armed. Right. Well,
yeah,
we understand that, you know, one guy jumps out with a crowbar. We're not going to all pull a firearm and just, mowing down, right?
right,
You know, you
exactly,
got
yeah,
you got to you got to have a plan in how we're over if someone comes through the restaurant door. You know, so nonverbal and verbal communications. You know, hand signals. You know. Whatever the case may be. So when it comes down to that, I Got Your Six class, we teach families and husband and wife how to move, right? What are we
yeah,
going to do? This guy jumps out and they may have a gun. We're moving together in this direction. But how do we know that if we
yeah,
hadn't been through some kind of training? So I Got
right.
Your Six. Look that up. We'll be hosting that at Elm Fork also.
Awesome, awesome. Edwin has another question. What do you think about rubber bullets? He says real quick, is that even something to entertain?
No, no. I mean, so if you're going to go with something less lethal, use some pepper spray or a taser. A rubber bullet isn't, you know, so you're dealing with a deranged person most of the time. You hit them with a rubber bullet, that's just going to piss them off. All right.
Yeah.
I actually watched a video of a police officer that dumped 15 rounds in a guy's chest, and the guy was still coming for him. I mean, I'm talking like
Wow.
in like within 3 to 5 yards in front of him, and it wasn't until the
Wow.
15th round at some point, in our classes transition from what's commonly or traditional known as the Mozambique drill, but we call it the failure to stop drill. So it's two to the chest and one to the head. Why? Because this person is hyped up on adrenaline, crack, cocaine, Dr. Pepper, M&Ms, and Skittles, all in one night.
Right.
So
Whatever.
the rounds are
Right.
not going to stop him. And if this person persists, then you have to take the necessary steps and turn the lights out, and that's one to what we call the fatal T. And I don't want to victim blame or really Monday morning quarterback here, but a shooting in New York where the security guard, who is ex-police officer, he got 2 rounds off. But in watching that video, I realized that he didn't resort back to some training that he probably had at one point in time. And one that means if a target is aggressing on you, you have to move off the X. You can't stand there and shoot. You have to move.
Right.
So if you dump 2 rounds, you got to start moving, or either while you're shooting those 2 rounds or directly after that. And if those 2 rounds don't stop, because we all got armor, right? Mine is back here in the back now. If that doesn't stop him or her, you have to transition to the fatal T and put that threat down.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Edwin says pepper spray on the list.
Oh wow, I think I lost. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? I can hear you. You can't hear me? No. Can you hear me now? All right, maybe log out and log back in. Maybe can you hear me now? All right, I don't know what just happened there. Let me bring him out, bring him back in. Can you hear me now? All right, let me see this comment. Ms. Sonia says, I'm not hesitant about teaching the kids because I am a licensed carry, and I feel like they should be educated because the guns don't hurt people. The people who use the guns hurt people. I agree. All right, I don't know. Yeah, we'll try to get that again. We'll try to get them to log out and log back in real quick. But we got Elijah Stroughter on the show. Great having him on. Really very, very knowledgeable. Very, very knowledgeable. He says, got it. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Edwin. Yeah, I know. I think you can hear me, but for some reason we can't hear. So we'll get him back on and we'll kind of round out the show. But thank you, everybody, for the comments, for the questions. Greatly appreciate it. And indefenseoflife.com is the website. Also, they're on social media on Instagram, on Facebook. They have a Facebook page. They also, I believe they have a Twitter as well. And that's where you'll be able to get also information from them. And yeah, this was important. It's important for us, extremely important for us. And I say Black people, it's important because we need to learn these skills, and I think we need to learn the proper way how to use them as well. So let's bring him back. Hopefully, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, we pretty much gonna kind of round it out. Any last or final thoughts you want to share? And actually, I'd love to do this again because I think we're just kind of hitting the tip of the iceberg on this first segment. So
yeah, no, I'm happy to come back and talk about more details, and whether you get instructions from me or someone else, get some instructions. Again, it doesn't matter that you have a gun. It doesn't matter how many guns you have. What matters is your level of your skill with that firearm, and the mindset behind it also.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you for coming on tonight. Glad we were able to do this. Looking forward to my next class, and maybe after the next class, I can have you back on again, and maybe Tracy as well. Because again, I will brag on her probably to the end of time, just because I just appreciated the personal touch, and that's one thing I'll say. before we get out of here about In Defense of Life is that it's a personal touch. It's not just a come here and we can show you how to shoot guns. No, it's a personal touch to get to know who you are. Because we didn't know Tracy prior to that. So she got to know who we are. She also got to talk to us on our level, the things that we were feeling and experiencing while we were handling and shooting the gun and all those things. So definitely.
Awesome.
All right. Well, you have a
I
great night. Yeah. Would you have a great night? Looking forward to you coming back on the show in the future.
Sounds good, man. Thank you very much for having us.
No problem. No problem. That's Elijah Schroeder. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. And we are going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Coming up tomorrow on BS3 TV on Roku, we got a lot of excuse me, great shows coming up. Starting off at 10 a.m. We'll have Overcomers Empowerment Ministries at 11. We'll have Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church. So service will be live on BS3 TV on Roku, as well as at 2:30 we'll have Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. Then at 7:30 we will at 4 we will have the Information Man show, and then at rounding it out at 7:30 we will have What's on E Digger's Mind. It'll be the debut show on BS3 TV. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Sonia, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate the questions. Also, let me see who else. Justin Caraway, as well as CJ Boyd. We appreciate all the input, all the questions. I will definitely have him on the show again, because this is bigger than just shooting a gun. There's a lot of intricate details that we can definitely touch on future episodes. So next Saturday, Late Night with BS3 will be back again, new time, 8 p.m. Me and my daughter will be reviewing the movie Bad Guys. And then also we will be talking with my cousin. He's the owner of Tracy Killian Styling, and we've been working together once a month, coming up with new styles. So he'll be coming on the show. So we got shows every day of the week on BS3 TV. Make sure to add that if you have not done already on your Roku TV or device. You guys have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you next time.